I forgot my fan.
Mine's fallen apart.
Oh my God, what did you do to it?
It fell off the desk and the bit there snapped. But
Does it work? Still? No.
yeah, of course it does. It just doesn't stand up.
That's all right. Come on, get
Sorry.
on.
Anyway,
We have a show to record, mister.
we do.
We
Yes.
do.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Naked Coach Collective. And we are talking life overhaul. What is it that you don't like about your current life and why you're not making any changes to that life? What does the life you would love to live look like and why are you not heading in that direction? What is stopping you from changing things? D, let's start with you.
Oh,
What is it about your life that you don't like and why are you not changing it? What's stopping you? What is the life you would love to live look like?
oh my
There we
God.
go.
You said this would be easy. You said, don't worry, I'll just do this. It's fine.
Don't worry. Yeah,
Oh my
I'll
God. Okay.
host. That's why I'm hosting, so I don't have to answer the question.
I'm going to flip it back on you. Don't worry.
So
Right. Okay, so,
let me be serious for a moment. I was
yeah,
obviously just
okay.
setting you up for failure then.
No.
So has there ever been a point in your life where you thought this is not it? This has to be something more. Was there ever a point in your life where you got to a point and just thought I can't carry on like this? I have to do something to change.
Because of what I was doing or because of life circumstances around me? Is it coming from inside me?
I suppose we could tackle it from both angles, really. So that could be the first angle we tackle it from. Then, so for something inside you, then calling you to something bigger, maybe.
I don't know about something bigger, but I knew that what I was doing wasn't the right thing for me. Was when I coming to the end of teaching, working in schools, be in and I knew, you know, for a little while before I stopped, that I liked teaching, I liked children, I liked the process of learning and the process of being a facilitator in somebody else's learning. Um, but I found the schools and working in schools very regimented and very difficult, and it was, and the pressures that it was giving me on my time when I wanted my time to be going to my daughter who was a lot younger was really tough, and I knew that something had to give. And something did give, actually. It was it almost wasn't in my hands, because I could feel myself. And at the time I didn't really understand what was going on, but I was heading towards a bit of a tumble, a bit of a burnout, if you like, in the sense that I just felt like I was on autopilot every morning. I was just waking up and doing autopilot, work. And then as soon as I had some downtime, I was just racked with guilt and racked with, am I doing the right thing, and questions, and not enjoying life. And so I knew at that point that something had to. And luckily, I had people around me who saw me better than I saw me at the time, and there was support there. Yeah, that was it was a time of change that needed to happen. Long and fair, not a long time coming, but a fair amount of time coming.
Yeah. And so, how did you handle that situation then?
I took some time off. Yeah, I took a fair few months off. I think I took about 4 months off and just sort of got my head into, right, what do we do now? Do I go back and make it work? Do I start something new? Do I use what I've learned to do it a different way? So, which is what I did. I sort of set up my own tutoring business, and I did that for a few years. It was, it came out all right in the end, but it wasn't an easy transition.
Quite scary, I imagine, as well.
Yeah, of course, because I had to, the things that were on my mind and the things that were worrying me about the time that I was giving to it, and how I was feeling about it all, had to still be a factor in what I did next. So, in terms of, I wanted more time with Isha, and I needed more time I needed to enjoy what I was doing. And I know a lot of people go to work, they hate their jobs, they make their money, they come home, they have a nice life in the evenings and the weekends, but it would never make me happy long term. And I knew that I have to be happy in my work. a little bit back to the drawing board, but obviously with a lot more knowledge and a lot more expertise. So I was able to have more choices. But it took time. It took time to get there, definitely.
Okay. And before you went into that, then you were saying potentially two options as to how we could approach that question. So what was the other side of that question then? Whereas I was focusing in on the inner side, what was it? What else was playing in your head
Well,
when you
that
thought
was
about
the
that
inner
question?
side. Yeah, I think the circumstances around you, if you're not fulfilling what you want, your desires and what you would love in your life, because you've got young children or elderly parents, or you're in an economic situation that doesn't support that, or you're in a country that doesn't support your freedom to do that, or I'm sort of the external factors that impact you. I think it's very difficult in those sort of circumstances because you're almost being, well, I was about to say you're forced, your hand is forced by the outside forces. We would go on as coaches and potentially say, well, you can shift your mindset, and you can shift your perspective and your perception of what's happening. But that's what I meant.
Right. Okay. Okay. So, and when you were talking, then it kind of sounded like both sides of that question really fed into trying to think of, well, what do I want? What do I actually want? More time with Isha and that kind of thing. So let's talk about a little bit more about that in terms of people. Well, actually, let's take a step back. How can people recognize that they need to overhaul their life? What kind of symptoms should they kind of start to recognize in their own life?
Well, I think there are tons. First of all, you just don't feel happy. You just don't feel satisfied. You don't feel energetic. You don't feel vibrant. These are the feelings. I think physically, you might see your skin gets grey, and you might get aches and pains. You might actually have physical symptoms of this dissatisfaction with life. Happiness with your situation can definitely have physical manifestations. Tiredness, and then you can't sleep, can't switch off. Actually, you hate your work, but you can't switch off, right?
Yeah.
It is that sort of those sorts of things. Can you add anything? What do you think? Would you add anything to that?
I think speaking from my own kind of personal experience on this, it kind of it kind of circles back for me to that story of when it's like working late into the evening, working on weekends, and I just have that kind of one moment where it's in December, you go to work, it's dark outside, you get home from work, it's dark outside, everything you do, it's dark outside. And then I was working into the evening after the evening meal. And I hear Milo whimpering. He's kind of like sat next to me there, and I just push out, and kind of it's weird. I remember it so vividly. I kind of pushed away from the desk here, and like out of the glare of the computer screen, I pushed out, and it was just like complete darkness, pitch black, and neighbours' lights are all out. Nicola's already in bed, kind of thing, and Milo's here. He's got his little paws on the arm of the chair, and he's like just scratching at my arm there, whimpering, and I'm like. It's just like crushing, as you said, it was just a crushing, overwhelming feeling of guilt. And it's kind of like, what am I doing?
Mm.
What, seriously, what am I doing? And I'd just be, and so it's that moment of what am I doing? But oh God, that camera's going again. That moment of what am I doing with my head in my hands like that, but also that feeling that I've talked about before in my head of that buzzing noise. It's
Mm.
like a buzzing fog of noise that was in my head, like a physical buzzing. It's so hard to explain. It's just like a physical fog of white noise buzzing around your head at the end of the day when you shut the laptop down and you don't want to talk to anyone. You just want to sit in silence. For me, that was my kind of symptom of just like something's got to change. Cannot carry on like this. And then we had the conversation.
Isn't that funny how timing really played an important part in that? Because
Mm,
we were feeling all those things, and we had a conversation and just touched on just a tiny little bit of a mindset change and a perception change of what you could do. And you did it, and then everything changed.
completely changed. Completely changed the way I worked and then just the way I approached work, having then figured out why I approached work in the way that I did.
Mm.
Just completely changed that, which then led to no more fog of noise in the head. So I would actually want to have conversations
Nice.
after work and on weekends, and I'm not working late into the evenings and on weekends again. So just that one little realization, like, completely turned my life from there to where I'm going now.
Wow.
Crazy.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome, Ian.
Oh, okay. Oh, do you know, I mean, it's not a private joke. Everyone knows if you're a regular listener that uh I was fortunate enough to coach Ian into a little bit of a breakthrough, which is so nice that you still remember and still go on through.
That that will be the thing I refer to for the rest of my life, because that was the kind of key realization that changed everything and completely
Fantastic.
turned things from there to in a completely different direction for me. So I will be forever grateful. Now, enough of backslapping and whatnot. So once someone's recognized these kind of symptoms, as we were saying,
Hmm.
what can they then do to start to look to change things, do you think?
I think you have to, before you start thinking of changing things, you really have to evaluate your current position. So you might be you're likely feeling really overwhelmed by lots of things coming at you, or even just one big thing coming at you, and you're thinking, oh my God, something's got to change, something's got to change, what's got to change? Oh, that might change it. Okay, I'll do that. I'll do that. I'll do that. I think you really need to just stop and take a breath and think about exactly what's going on. And this is where talking to someone who is able to give you the guidance through their questioning to realize what that might be. And then you're then just understanding that one thing. What is it that is actually overwhelming me? That is actually causing me distress. That's actually giving me stress and making me unhappy. And because, there's a lot of aspects to everybody's life. There's a lot of areas in everybody's life. And at the time I was teaching and mothering and traveling a lot to see my family, lived far away, and trying to have a bit of a social life. Just sort of because I was a single mother, I thought, oh, I'm going to be alone forever. There's so many things. I really looking back, really had to pinpoint what is the thing, the main thing that's causing you the anxiety, and then focus on that, because you can't focus on everything, can't do everything all at the same time. So for you, it was that thing about how you perceived yourself working. Yeah. For me, it was knowing that I just knew I cannot continue to work in a school. The thing, it wasn't the teaching that, that was not working for me. It was the environment. So, and then when you've got that, then you can start piecing together, well, what can you do instead? What can you just simply remove? What could you just simply add, or what could you do instead? And then you start analyzing your options. And again, here, we can't see all our options for ourselves. It's just very, very difficult. Even the most clued up person who is so in tune with themselves will not see everything. I did an analogy once, actually. I think it was last year or something. Anyway, it was one piece of content I was writing, and it kind of came to me that it's like your life is like you are in the middle of a tornado, especially when you're feeling unhappy. I'm going to say unhappy because I think unhappy is kind of like an umbrella term for wanting to change something. And you are in the middle of this tornado and it's whizzing around you. You need somebody out there to be able to see the whole picture, because you just simply can't, because you're in the middle of it. And I think that's a good place to start.
I like that analogy. That's good.
Use
I'll
it.
take that.
Take
I'll
it.
take it. Yeah.
For free.
um, I think one thing I would do is, if for listeners to take something away from this, is a tool that we know very well now is the notice what you're noticing tool. So notice the discontent that you're feeling and kind of honing on that, and just think about what the longing is that's associated with that discontent as well. So, for instance, that for me, that buzzing fog and noise in the head and working late, etc., that was the discontent, and the longing that came off the back of that was peace.
Yes.
Peace, and that forms now such a core value for me of just constantly seeking peace and freedom. It's like one of my main core values. So I think once you notice your discontent, figure out what the longing is off the back of that. And because I think the discontent and the pain of a current situation will only get you so far. So you'll be pushed to a certain level, and then like the longing of something, that dream of something, will pull you the rest of the way, and it will at least get you out of the situation that you're in. And so mine, that discontent was that pain, and then that longing led me down the path for us to have that conversation, and it's just completely pulled me out of that discontent, and now I'm on a path to that longing, that vision, that dream. So I think notice what you're noticing. So notice that discontent and notice that longing is a good place to start when you're in the throes of trying to figure out how to overhaul, change your life. And that kind of leads me on to the next point, really, was then understanding, what does a life you would love to live look like? What is the life you would love to live look like?
It's a big question.
Mm.
It's the polar opposite. I'm sort of putting myself back into that person, gosh, over 10 years ago, right? More than that. Um, it's what you want your life to look like is literally the flip side of what you've got at the time. When you're that deeply feeling out of it, out of the goodness that's in your life. So it would be working in a job that made me feel happy. It would be being present as much as I want to be for my daughter. It would be having financial security that comes from doing a job that I love. It would be the flip side of everything that was happening at the time. And I suppose could we look at another example of, I think it's quite common, a lot of people are unhappy with their work, aren't they? If you're in a position where you're earning a decent amount of money, I think that makes it harder to think, right, I've got to stop and do something, because you've got to then find something that equates to at least the same amount or more. And, we've all got families, we've all got bills to pay. It becomes complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And you work with a lot of people who are, working, earning good money, working in their own businesses often. So do you ever ask, I mean, let me flip it back on you. Do you ever ask them a question like, what would you love in your life? And do you find surprising answers ever?
Well, there's one conversation that sticks into my mind, and when we were talking about what does the life he would love to live look like, and he said, I just want to have more time with the family. And so we were digging down into that and everything, and then so we worked out part of his dream was to have 30 days a quarter outside of the business. 30 days a quarter, so basically a month off every 3 months outside of the, because he was the owner of the business, right? And so we dug down into that, and at the end of the training calls like we were just talking about it, and he was like, that amount of free time scares me. What would I do with all that time? So the question flipped back to him was, what a lovely place to be in. What a lovely question to be able to ask yourself.
Mm,
What an amazing, privileged
yeah, nice.
question
And
to
he
be able
said,
to ask yourself that is.
I bet.
What would I do with all that free time? And then it got him into the mindset of, yeah, well, what can I do with all that free time? Instead of, oh God, what am I going to do with all that time? I don't know what I'm going to do. It got him into a position of trying to think of different things that he could do. And he then went down the route of setting something up with his wife and his sister, I think it was, if I remember rightly. His wife and his sister, just setting up like some family
Mm.
type thing. So yeah, no, it's very straight. I can't go into too many details for obvious reasons. But yeah, it was weird how not weird. It was just funny how how those conversations go, because the people I work with are obviously in very privileged positions,
Well, they work and
not
they're,
through kind of like things being handed down to them, but obviously through their own hard work and hard graft and getting themselves into that position.
mm, and lucky as well. There's always an element of luck in business, isn't there, as well, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And so the conversations tend to be around so sometimes they feel a lot of guilt around the fact that they're not happy, even though they've got the money to be happy. They'd like, but so many people would love to be in my position. Why do I still not feel happy? So there's a lot of guilt around it as well that they feel. Well, yeah, those are just kind of some of the ways the questions, the conversations go. But yeah, just asking that, just saying to them that one thing of, well, what a privileged position to be in, to be able to ask yourself, what can I do with all that time?
I think it's,
Kind of
yeah,
flipped it a little bit.
comes around that. I just want to go back to that question, that thing of, well, why am I happy and feeling guilty about that? It's okay. I think it's really okay to appreciate what you have and have a realistic view of it. It's not, if I've got all this but I'm still not happy, then they were climbing up the wrong ladder, or the lot, that analogy of where they're working and working and working to climb up that ladder, and then they get to the top and realize it's against the wrong wall, but it's just the
Exactly.
wrong ladder. So it's okay to acknowledge those sorts of things, I think. And people kick themselves because of that.
And it kind of quite, what was it? Do you follow golf at all?
No.
World number one, Scotty Scheffler, who's literally just won the Open this past weekend. He was saying in a press conference, he was like, "What am I doing this for? This is not fulfilling." He was saying this out loud in the press conference to everyone. He's like, "I go away and win these majors, and I'm still not happy. I'm still not fulfilled." That kind of thing. So it just goes to show you can be at the very top and still just not be happy.
Why don't you reach out to him and offer him some coaching?
Yeah.
I feel like he needs to. What's his name? Hold on, I'm going to call him.
Scotty baby.
Scotty baby. Ian said you need some coaching. Yeah, I think.
It just goes to show and that's a great example of working so hard at something,
Mm.
being so good at something, dedicating so much of your time to it, and not being happy or fulfilled.
Somebody else's dream, dad's or family,
Possibly, yeah.
and trying to fulfill someone else's dream is big for a lot of people. Following in their father's footsteps or their mother's footsteps and doing that, and actually, you might find that you haven't actually really stopped to think about what it is you really want. I know I didn't. I didn't stop to think about what I really wanted when I went into teaching, because it was a career path which I chose because of circumstances. A lot of, I did think, okay, it's nice to work with children and I could do it and I was good at it, but it gave me the school holidays. It gave me that sort of thing. And with a 7-year-old at the time, when I got into it, it was a great option. So I never stopped to think, is this what I really want? If I had done that back then, I'd have 15 years of coaching under my belt now.
Yeah. Well, this is another thing, right? How many times has everyone actually stopped to ask themselves that question, or how many times has everyone been asked that question by somebody?
Sorry, can you hear that screaming outside? No, that's all right.
I did
Yeah,
hear someone screaming. Yeah, I chose to try and ignore it.
we'll cut it out. Sorry, would you repeat that, please? I was distracted by the fellas outside having a nice time.
The fellas outside on a boozer. I was saying, how often have people actually asked themselves that question, and how often have people
This
been
is what
asked
I
that
really want.
question by somebody else? It's
You know
not
what?
often at all, is it?
Not often at all. I am really stunned that you're golfing, Scotty fella, because to admit that in front of the world is very odd. It's very odd. That's like, wow, I'm surprised.
Yeah, it was literally like,
I might
I
have
train,
to.
I do all this training, I go to a competition, I win this competition, and for what? They were loving it. They're loving it, aren't they? They're selling papers. They don't care.
Unhappy. Wins the Open and he's unhappy. Kind of,
Yeah,
oh, all right, okay. That's kind of shot me. I'm
have
going
a
to,
field day, wouldn't they?
yeah.
I would be interested to see what some of the headlines would be. Actually,
Was this only yesterday?
yeah, it was only yesterday you won it.
All right.
Yeah,
Well, look it
I'd
up.
be interested. I'll have a look.
All right. So where were we? Come on, let's get back to it.
We were talking about what can people do. So I think we kind of covered that. What can people do in terms of where do they start for overhauling their life? And I think one thing to also tap into what we've discussed there in terms of tips as to things they can do to start is also recognize maybe why they're not taking steps to change their life. Is there something they're not doing for a reason?
That's huge, right?
Mm.
I mean, the first thing that springs to mind is fear, instability, financial, personal. If you get as far as working out what it is you want, then you've got all those fears. Will I be good enough? Can I do it? Have I got the time? Am I too old? Am I too whatever? So you work really hard and you figure out what it is you want, and then all of a sudden you've got to start working again and and make yourself believe that you deserve it and that you can do it.
Mm.
And you need to be realistic in these things, and the people that you talk to, they need to. It needs to be, can't you be, oh yeah, you're gonna be great. You want to be an astronaut and fly to the moon. Yeah, yeah, of course you can. Just get on the phone to NASA. It can't be like that. It has to be thought through, encouraging and pushing, but also real. Now, you may disagree with me because obviously we do the dream building, which doesn't necessarily deal with the how. So what would you
It
say?
helps people. Yeah, it doesn't tell you how to do things. It helps you tap into what you already know. The answers you already know. You've just never asked the right question to be able to tap into that particular answer. So it starts to open up your eyes to the different possibilities that are around, so things can start to align better for you because you're asking yourself the right questions, so you're coming up with the right answers.
And
But
you
it
know,
doesn't tell you. So if someone says, I need business strategy on X, Y, Z, it's not going to tell you the answers to that, but it'll allow you to figure out how to get those answers.
and open yourself to being receptive to opportunities that come your way that
Opportunities,
you
yeah.
may not even see. And I really feel like this, because I'm seeing opportunities. Like I've started working with a wellbeing center. I've started to, putting myself out there. It's all because I'm really working on knowing what I want. And I think once you start knowing what you want, you can start seeing the possibilities in every encounter, in every opportunity, which may well have been there last week when you hadn't done the work on figuring out what it was you want. It would still have been there,
Yeah.
but you just
It's
didn't see it.
yeah, exactly. It's just because you have that dream and that goal and that vision, whatever it is, but you can't see the path to it. It doesn't mean there's no path there. It just means that you're not aware of the paths available to you to get there. So it helps bring out your awareness to those paths to get to that goal.
Yeah, like it. So we are identifying what we want to change. What's the next step? So we've started noticing. We've started noticing things. We've started noticing opportunities. We're still carrying a lot of fear.
Yeah. So you're figuring out what it is that's potentially holding you back. Sorry, 1 second. Oh God, that bloody camera's following me around.
You need to fix that.
Thank God. Sorry. So yeah. So you know your discontent. You know your longing. You recognize, or you're trying to start to recognize the reasons why you might be sabotaging yourself, so to speak, or not
Good.
taking those steps forward, that kind of thing. I think the next steps is to work. I think the next steps is to work on yourself to allow yourself to then start to take those next steps and start to recognize those opportunities and just start to build that vision better and better and make it more and more in sync with who you are and what you want out of life. I think it's all then about working on yourself. But I think this is one bit of advice because that's obviously a lot. There's a lot to that. It's not just a quick fix. There's a lot to that, but take small steps. Don't overwhelm yourself with trying to take a giant step straight away.
And believe.
Start small. Start small.
And believe. You have to believe that you deserve it, and you have to believe that you can do it.
Hmm.
And sometimes you have to borrow faith, don't you? I mean, whatever that means. I've heard that a lot actually recently, and I think actually it's so true because you know my partner supports everything I do, and sometimes I say to him, "I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could do that," and I just he's so reassuring, and I'll just borrow his faith and say, "Right, okay, so
That's it, though, right? It's like, do you believe that I believe you can do it?
yeah."
So that's one way
And
of
we do
looking at
that
it.
for
And
each other as well, don't we? You know, so it's a really good tool that I think is really underused because we just what people see us in such a different way to we see ourselves, and sometimes it's better to look at us from ourselves from an outsider's point of view, but an outsider you love or care about, you know. So I think that's quite a interesting take to go alongside what you said.
yeah, and just on that as well, it kind of links to it is the self talk. And I heard on a podcast. I can't remember what it was now though. It was a while ago. And he says, if I talked to my friends the way I talk to myself, I would have no friends. We are our own worst critic. So
Why do you think that
if you
is?
ever, I don't know, if you ever are beating yourself up over something, talk to yourself how you would talk to a friend who was doing the exact same thing.
Do you think it's a
So if your friend failed at something like you've literally just done and failed at, how
Mm.
would you talk to them? Would you give them encouragement or would you call them an absolute bellend? Which is what I used to call myself. I mean, you might do it in a teasing way.
But remember, your brain doesn't know if you're taking, you know, having a joke with yourself, right?
Exactly.
You say you call yourself
Exactly.
bellend, right? Your brain thinks that you mean it, and therefore it's going to start behaving like one. So, it doesn't know that you're
Exactly.
playing a joke with yourself. Actually, your brain doesn't really have a sense of humor, right? So you you have to you have to pick yourself up, even in your
Yeah,
mind.
exactly. And it seeps into that subconscious, and the subconscious is controls like what is it, 90% of your behavior and your habits is controlled by your subconscious. So it's like sort your subconscious out with that kind of self talk, and then you're kind of heading in the right direction just there.
I think we're a bit, you know, as Brits, we're a little bit sort of self-effacing. Self-effacing, is that the right word? Self-effacing?
Self-effacing. That's a new
Self-deprecating?
word.
Self-deprecating?
Hang on a second. Nicola's boiling the kettle. I'm just going to ask her to make me an Ovaltine.
It's not that late. It's not Ovaltine time yet.
It is. It's 8:30. Nearly
Oh,
bedtime. For
you
crying
need
out
to
loud.
go and get your Ovaltine in, ordering.
I am. I'm getting my order in. Yeah. Sorry, you were saying we're trying to help the audience here. Yeah. Sorry.
This says, Ian has to go to bed at 9 p.m., so his Ovaltine time is 8:30, which it is now, right? So I think I said in the last episode, you're the grandpa of the group, but you really are.
I am. I am.
Oh, anyway, we
I
digress.
absolutely am.
We have to. Well, what's the point now? You made me forget what I was talking about.
I don't know. I don't know. I got distracted by tasty treats. If anyone says Ovaltine isn't a tasty treat, then you're a liar.
Okay.
I don't want you listening to the show.
All right. Okay. So if now that we know we established that everybody that is still listening loves Ovaltine, right? We can carry on.
Okay, carry on.
Where were we? Where were we? What were we talking about?
Yeah. So self-talk and the subconscious.
Yeah, self-talk is really important. It's different from manifestation and things like that. The self-talk is just really a base level what your brain hears you saying about yourself. Make it positive.
Yeah.
Make it positive.
I think the final thing from me on this that I'll say to contribute to this episode, to go alongside that kind of notice what you're noticing we were talking about earlier, is that your kind of results are a direct reflection of your thoughts, which kind of links into that self talk and the thoughts that you have. And everybody knows this. So if you were to say you lost your purse or your wallet or your keys or whatever it is, and you get that panicky feeling, and maybe you get butterflies in your stomach or whatever it is, that's your thoughts directly affecting your feelings. And your feelings then have an impact on the different actions that you take. So if you're having sad and depressed thoughts, and you'll create depressed feelings, which means you're less likely to take good actions. You're more likely to take less energetic actions. So, oh no, I can't bother doing that today. Nah, forget it. I'm not in the mood. Don't want to do that. You'll get into that way. But if you're more energetic, having better thoughts, then you're more likely to take better actions, which then has a direct impact on your results.
Hmm.
So your results are a direct reflection of the thoughts that you have, is the kind of second tool I would give people to kind of take away from this.
Nice. Thank you.
And that's it for me. What about you, Dee? Anything else to wrap it up?
No, just be kind to yourself. Love yourself. You deserve to have the things that you want. You deserve not to be you deserve to be happy. I think a big takeaway from me was what you said earlier was, you know what, talk to yourself like you would talk to a good friend. You need to be your best friend. You need to be one, at least one, or if not your own best friend. Give yourself that privilege because you deserve it and you should own it.
Yeah. And there'll be people out there listening that say, well, who am I to want this? Who am I to get what I want? Who am I to deserve that kind of thing? And it's like, it's okay to want something better than what you've currently got. It's
Absolutely,
okay. There's nothing
absolutely.
wrong with it.
No, no, absolutely. Do you know, I was just going to say, we do this podcast every week. I just wonder if anybody is listening, you know,
There isn't.
if anyone's listening, and you've got this far, you know, just I would really, really love to have a comment and or some comments about what you think about what we said. And we always put our contact details in the show notes. So you can get in touch and send us a question or book a time on our calendar for a chat. So all these things are possible. And if you like the way we rock and roll and want to get involved, do.
Like the way we rock and roll. If you like the cut of our jib.
Even, even. Do you know what's really interesting about that? About that saying, the cut of our jib? Gujarati, which is language I speak. Your jib is your tongue. So maybe it is an. I need to look at the etymology of that phrase now. You made me think.
Now who's old?
Not me. I'm younger than you. You're the grandpa. Might be. I might have walked this earth for a few years more than you, but you are definitely older.
I might have lived a lot longer than you, Ian.
I didn't say a lot. Right, time to call it. Thank you for listening. It's been fun
Dear.
as ever, and it's time for us to say until next time. Be there
Be there.
and
Be
be
naked.
naked.
Like and subscribe and share.